In this video, I'm sharing the solution to the tax game where we met John, the PT. Do you remember John? He works in home health as a contract PT, and he lives in a one-bedroom apartment, has no home office. And on Saturday, he was asked to see one patient for an initial evaluation. And so what John did was he drove to the patient's house, did the eval, and drove right back. So the question to the tax game was, of the 20 miles that John drove on that Saturday, how many are business miles and therefore deductible? And the answer is, well, actually, there's two answers here. So if you were to go to your CPA or accountant, 100% of them will give you the following answer, which is 0. They will say, well, these are commuting miles, therefore they're not deductible because they're not business miles. All right? If you work with T&T, therapy not taxes, we can tell you that about 16 of these 20 miles are going to be business miles if you use our strategy. We'll talk about that in a minute. So there's two different numbers here, right? 0, your CPA and accountant will say 0, and T&T will say 16. But why is there two different numbers? Well, because your CPA and accountant, they're doing tax compliance, and T&T is using tax strategy. See, these are two completely different approaches. Yes, and they're both legal. So T&T is using a tax strategy rooted in the tax code section 162A, plus industry-specific tax strategies incorporating deductions available to contract home health therapists and assistants. Here's the key. Your CPA and your accountant have never done your job. Therefore, they don't know about these things. All right? So T&T has created this commute to business conversion of mileage based on the tax code and based on 18 years experience as a home health contract therapist. And guess what? It only takes 2 days to set up this strategy. It's so easy. And you can start accumulating business miles by converting commuting miles into business miles. So let's take this one step further. Let's say that John totals 4,000 miles per year in commuting miles. Okay? And he has the log to prove it because you need a log according to the IRS. So if he has a total of 4,000 miles and he goes to his CPA, they will say, well, you can't deduct any of those. They're all commuting miles, right? And that's as far as your CPA and accountant will take you to 0, okay? Whereas if you work with us in T&T and we apply this strategy of the C2B conversion, we'll be able to claim about 3,500 of those commuting miles and convert them to business miles. So no, it's not 100%, but it's not 0, right? And so guess what? This deduction alone is going to be worth, if we start using the numbers that the IRS released for 2024, this deduction alone is going to give you a $2,345 deduction instead of 0. And this is only one of the strategies that we use. When we start using all the other strategies, then look, these are the results. Number 1, you're going to save on self-employment tax. You're going to save on federal income tax. And when you lower that bracket, this is where you start seeing some major savings because you can go from 24% tax bracket to 12%. You are half, right? 50% reduction in taxation. This is huge. And again, your accountant and your CPA, they're not going to do this for you. This is a very individualized approach, and it's really not their job to help you save on taxes. It's to keep you tax compliant. And this is where we fit in the spectrum. So there's a tax coaching season, right, where we're teaching you the strategies, you're implementing them, and you're maximizing your deduction throughout the whole year. And by the way, our services are tax deductible, all right? And then there's tax filing season. This is where you file your tax returns on the software or with your CPA or accountant. And if you have been coached by us, right, then you're going to minimize your tax burden and therefore keep most of your hard-earned money. Have you learned anything? Then you know what to do. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments below or DM us on Instagram at Therapy Not Taxes.